Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. This is Mitchell with Besmoque, and really excited tonight to have someone that I've really looked forward to having on for quite a while, Mr. Chuck Pollard, who has some really fun stuff coming up in the very near future, as well as a project that he's been working on and has launched recently called Sarto Magazine. Oscar, how are you? Wolfgang, good to see you. Daniel, good to see you. And Chuck is here, so hold on one moment. Connected in. Daniel, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. Mr. Pollard, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Good.
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for
Glad
coming
to
on.
hear it.
So much fun stuff happening for you.
So, it always has to be fun. Yeah,
That's right.
we make our own fun these
Life is way
days.
too serious to not have fun.
Life is too many bad things happen anyway. So
Yeah, indeed,
we have
indeed.
to take it where we can get it and
There you go.
create it when it doesn't exist. How are you, my
Absolutely.
friend? All
I'm
good?
doing all is great. I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking.
Good. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you. I decided to, jazz it up a little for tonight.
You're very jazzed. Yeah.
Oh man. So, firstly, thank you so much. I see a lot of, the two communities that I follow mostly which is the barbecue and the menswear have joined in. So, I'm not sure many of the barbecue know who you are. So please introduce yourself and,
Don't assume that.
no, listen, I'm just going by, some weird
I'm
presumptions.
knowing my way around some barbecue joints. Okay?
So introduce yourself and let them know who you are and what you're doing.
I will. My name is Chuck Pollard, and I live in New York City, but I was raised and reared in North Carolina, hence a certain knowledge about barbecue.
The good barbecue.
At least a certain kind of barbecue. As I've told you, I also spent many of my middle years sort of in the Midwest in Kansas City. More barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my chops. Okay, I don't know how to
No
necessarily
pun intended.
it preparing barbecue, but I have consumed massive amounts of it.
Right.
And for about 40 years, I was in the fashion and beauty industry and in the advertising side of that. And I recently retired after 25 years working at L'Oreal, which was great.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Just sort of happened. It was great. And that gave me an opportunity to do something that I've always wanted to do, which was to start a magazine. And so that's what I did. And it's called Sarto, and it's just launched in the last 2 weeks. And I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity and the pure delight of getting it, and man, it is really, really great. I mean, some of the nicest articles, some of the finest written articles, some of the greatest characters you've got going on in there. I mean, just really, 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 really good.
Well, we try. One of the things that's nicest about it, and one of the reasons that I love what you do, is you sort of become part of a bigger community, and so that's a really great part of it. And I love what you do in that, you're bringing two very, diverse communities together, because of your interests. And, that's sort of the same thing that I'm trying to do with Sarto. It's really, it's certainly a menswear based magazine, but it's really about the people behind the brands and people behind style issues and doing things in a stylish way with their personal style. And so that's really, I think, interesting to delve into more. And so that's why I'm excited about doing that.
Yeah, that's the one thing I love about style is that, one person you can have an identical cut garment and have one person wear it completely different than the other and just express their own style through it with,
Absolutely.
color or, adding or removing or whatever it might be. And I mean, I think it's very well expressed through Sarto magazine. And fantastic job. I can
Oh,
go on and on.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It really
First
was
and
good.
foremost, yeah, that's important. Yeah, but
How long were you
yeah,
working on it?
I think style, as opposed to approaching something with the same would be true of barbecue. You know, style there's styles of barbecue. One is not good, bad, better, worse. It's all very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's all good. It's what you respond to. And there
Right.
may be certain rules, some of which would be unbreakable, you know, and others of which are open for interpretation. So while it seems really, really opposite, I think a lot of the same rules apply.
I agree. And that's really the one thing that's always kind of melded the two to me, the two passions, is how, for lack of a better term, bespoke the styles of each one can be, right?
Yeah.
I can go as minimal or as, you know, over the top. I'd like to go with either or, and it really does tie, you know, together, from even the, you know, the devices that you cook in to the
Sure.
presentation of the food. And so, having been all over these different places and tried all these different barbecue joints, and with style, we talked about regional. So with both, what would you say your favorite regionals are? What are your favorite regionals of barbecue and favorite regional of style would be?
That's like choosing your favorite child. You can't.
We all have one. Let's not
can't
kid
do
ourselves.
it. No, I mean, I think, you know, as much as I love all kinds, but I'll start with barbecue. Because I never get to talk about barbecue, so there you go. So I was so excited about this tonight. For me, and I think it comes from growing up, and it comes from my dad and his preferences. I love like a Eastern North Carolina chopped barbecue sandwich on a bun with coleslaw and sauce. And a side of hush puppies. We've talked about that. And that for me, when I, like, in the back of my consciousness, when I think of barbecue, that's what conjures up. Now, I love ribs and I love brisket and I love, you know, all kinds of things, but Carolina chopped pork barbecue is probably, you know, if I had to choose, that could very well be my last meal. If I ever have to make that choice or get to make that choice. And it could kill me. Yeah.
It might end up being your last meal.
It's not the most healthy thing you can eat.
Sure,
so.
sure.
But and then style-wise, I just by the nature of my, you know, where my personal style evolved to, you know, I love an urban style.
Mm-hmm.
I love this style of New York City, which is where I live, because it's such a melting pot. You see everything from really sober style to really flamboyant style.
Absolutely.
To style with cultural influences, to, you know, very dressed up and very dressed down, and there's always plenty of style to go around, which is not true a lot of places, you know, and then I can tend to forget that sometimes. So I'm very appreciative of being in a place where I get to participate in and observe style on a daily basis.
Indeed. I mean, the amount of style on display is so much at all times, everywhere. And that's another thing of New York. You know, you were talking about, I love New York for that reason. You know, I'm in Miami, Florida, and we've got our own.
A lot of nice style in Miami.
A lot of style down here. And again, you know, if you go to different parts of town, right? You go to downtown,
Sure.
It's more business structured. If you hit South Beach, there's certainly a style there. It's much less, you know, formal, but there's certainly a style and a je ne sais quoi of the way that, you know, the people down here dress. You know, we have a lot of lightweight because of the weather.
Sure.
And so, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of the fun fabrics or the heavier fabrics that we can, you know, mix and match. So we have to kind of be a little creative. I love that about the North. I love the coats, the hats, the scarves, the gloves. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can do. Which is your favorite season of style to dress for?
Oh God. You know, I'm going through withdrawal right now because the seasons are changing, and so
Right.
I'm getting in my heavy flannels for the last time for 6 months. So I love in New York. I love fall and winter just because it's a little bit more comfortable to be dressed. In the summertime, as much as I love it, I would rather be at the beach because it's hot in the city. There's not much of a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you stay inside and you're in air conditioning, it's all good. But and spring is beautiful, but it can be wet. And if there's one thing I don't like, it's being dressed in tailored clothing and getting wet.
Oh, I can imagine.
That's no fun. That's no fun for anyone. So I would say fall and winter are probably my favorite times. But I love dressing in the summer as well.
Right. And I think for me, the two that you mentioned really give you such an abundance of choice, between the different weights, the cuts, the styles, and things like that. So absolutely. How about footwear? Obviously we see you a lot with your ensembles. Are you what's your favorite kind of footwear to go with on a daily basis?
If I'm wearing a suit, I tend to wear I have not a huge collection of shoes. I'm certainly not a shoe fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years back, I really started buying better shoes, better quality shoes.
Right.
I used to kind of just buy shoes, and they were okay. They were better than average, or
Sure.
They were nice shoes that I would buy on sale, and they were just okay, run of the mill shoes. And then one day I tried on a pair of John Lobb shoes, and it's like the light bulb went off. It's like, oh my God, like walking on cotton. Feel better because it's quality leather and it breathes, and and they're made better, and so I made a decision because I may seem like I'm really extravagant, but I'm not. I save my pennies for what I really, really want, and so I decided that rather than buying several pairs of shoes, I would wait and save up and buy one really good pair of shoes. And I think that comes with a lot of trial and error, and it also comes with age, and it comes with financial availability and all of those things. That all those worlds have to sort of collide. But I usually wear John Lobb shoes. I have a couple of other pairs and brands if I'm wearing a suit or formal tailored clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that, it's like I love a driving shoe. I like like a Tod's shoe or a Gucci slip-on or something, or just a regular old shoe. And Stan Smith, Adidas.
Oh,
tennis shoes,
okay.
Yeah. Since I was about 8 years old. Since Stan Smith was still playing tennis back then. So.
Okay, I'm going to formally and respectfully request a photo in one of your next uploads of you in some Sam Smiths. I think we need to see that.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. That's so cool.
Actually, Stan Smiths are great with a seersucker suit in the summertime.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so, are you going with the classic whites?
Yes, classic whites. I always did with the little green back. But then a couple years back, I bought some ones that have blue on the back. There was like some special edition Stan Smiths, and so I got those. And the green ones actually wore completely out, and so now I just have the blue ones.
Any other trainer sneaker in the ensemble?
Well, you don't have to have anything else if you have a pair of sneakers. It's the perfect shoe in my mind. You can quote me on that.
Okay.
I do have a couple other pairs. I have some great. I'm very old school when it comes to sneakers. I have Converse, canvas, sneakers.
Some Chuck Taylors or just the canvas style?
You will not get a picture of those because they're really beat up and ratty and perfect. And I have a pair of Jack Purcell's. which again are incredibly old school. Nobody would know that. They're actually the sneakers that my dad wore, and
Really?
I
Wow.
saw them one day and I kind of bought them because they reminded me of him. He was a real tennis buff. He played tennis all the time, and he always wore his Jack Purcell shoes. So
Nice.
yeah, that's the extent of my sneaker trainer range.
Gotcha.
That's my sporty spice uh, persona.
Did you ever play tennis?
I did.
Okay.
I did when I was young. My dad was we were like tennis brats. My dad had played in college and then he went to the Naval Academy and then was in the Navy, and so he played for the Navy. So he was actually a really great tennis player. I was never more than good, for a 16-year-old,
Gotcha.
So yeah, I kind of fell out of it after a while.
Okay.
But what a great sport. I wish I had continued playing.
Yeah. It's one of the funnest sports out there.
Yeah.
Both for me, both to observe and to play.
Yeah, I still love watching it. Yeah,
right.
It's a great. It's my dad used to tell the story of he was on the baseball team and he was standing out there in like left field and waiting for nothing to happen and he looked over and there was the tennis courts and he was like, they were hitting the ball every time, like something was going on. What a great idea, So he like threw down his baseball glove and went and picked up a tennis racket, learned how to play. So because it just seemed more going on.
Yeah, more involvement. Absolutely. And so with your style, one of the things that I've had David Embrico on before, and he was really excited to hear that you were going to be on tonight, and he might even be joining in a little bit as well. He said he was going to try to catch it.
I watched that one. I saw, or most of it at least.
Yeah. And, we were commenting about your tie and how it's, the loop, over and through. And so that's become, to me anyway, an identifying staple, right? If somebody says to me, Chuck Pollard, immediately, and am I pronouncing that correctly? Is it
yes,
Pollard?
you are. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Good. And immediately that comes to me. And the second one is the tie pin. And so I put out earlier, asking if there were any questions, if anybody had any questions, and we got a couple, and one of them had to do with this. And so I'm going to pop it up on the screen, and it says, please elaborate on the purpose of the pin tie collars. They look so suave. This is a lady named Jennifer. She's in the barbecue community and really loves the tie pin. So for you, why is it such a staple of your wardrobe?
I picked it up a few years back. I always kind of liked it, and I had seen guys wear them, growing up and later on in life, and I just decided to try it, and I really liked it. I like it from a practical standpoint because it keeps your tie in position, it keeps it straight, all that stuff. I also just liked it because it was a little bit different. And not many people wore them. And so I think when you kind of observe that and, if there's some, I mean, listen, it's an affectation. Let's be clear. It's kind of annoying, but it's my affectation at this point. So, so I think it's something that if you adapt something like that, and there are all kinds of things, it can become sort of a signature style for you that again, not everyone else is doing it. For years I wore very cut back collars, and I just kind of got out of that. And actually once I did, I kind of realized that probably wasn't the most flattering for my face shape or anything. You also kind of learn by trial and error what becomes flattering for you.
Right.
So, for me, being a little bit narrower or being a little more, together, works. And I just kind of fell into it and I liked it and it was different. So it was something that I could sort of latch onto and make my own.
Listen, it looks great. And how you get it through on the first try every time amazes me.
If you pay attention, I don't. Yeah.
Well, you make it
I'm
look
usually
so
like,
easy.
fiddling like trying to find the hole and do it at the same and watch the camera. Yeah, it's not. It's an illusion.
I would have blood-stained collar points from
Yeah,
poking myself
it's
over and over.
happened. My finger.
And the tie knot. All right, so I have to ask, how did you come to this particular tie knot? Obviously, you like the wider tie.
I like wider tie. I just do. Again, it has to do with stylistically. I like that, but it's also my proportions. You know, it's just something a little bulkier just looks better to me.
Okay.
And people think it's a lot of wraps. It's really not. It's probably no more wraps than if you're tying a full Windsor. It's just a different effect at the end. You know, so it's 4 wraps. It's 2 over and 2 around. So it's not that crazy. It's certainly more than just a simple 4 in hand, you know, like a schoolboy knot, but it's not so crazy. And I came to it over trial and error. I was kind of like tying 4 in hands, and I decided I wanted it a little bit bulkier on one side, so I did it twice, you know, and then that needed to balance another way, so I did that again, and that's just kind of how I ended up. And you know, everybody always asks me the name, and I think there is a name for it. I don't know it, because I just kind of found it on my own. I didn't go look it up, you know. So,
was there ever a tutorial for this?
Yeah, I didn't go find it on the internet and then do it myself. I kind of like did it by trial and error, but I'm sure that it's not original to me. I'm sure.
Gotcha.
I'm sure other people have done it.
So another question came in earlier from another Instagram account. Daniel wears suits. Really nice guy.
Very nice guy.
Okay, you know him. So he asked, you know, what sparked your affinity for, you know, wide ties? I think we just discussed, and lapels, and any bow ties in the wardrobe.
I can answer all of those. The wider things come from two sources, I would say. One, I grew up in the 70s where people wore wide things. That was sort of the style. And it's a period that I really, really like stylistically.
Yes.
I'm just very drawn to it. I think that I always say in the 70s, people dressed for sex. They dressed to attract. And
even to go to the dance clubs. I mean, you see everyone
absolutely.
fully. Yeah.
And people still dressed to like go out and do things and all of that. And so that it's part of a hangover from that. It's just a again, for me proportionally, a lot of trial and error. I have found that I don't have very big shoulders. I've never worked out a lot. So my suits tend to have some padding in the shoulders. I like a more constructed suit. And with that proportion, a wider lapel is just a little bit better. You know, it suits my frame a little bit better. And then the tie should sort of mirror a similar width of the lapels. Yeah. So, you know, hence that. The other thing, in terms of bow ties, the answer would be no. And I'll probably offend somebody with that because bow tie aficionados, and they should absolutely wear them. I don't. Again, it's not something that's terribly flattering to me. And it's not something because of that. And that may be, people may say, oh no, you look great. And maybe I do. It's just my, you know, internal camera goes, no. I wear a bow tie with a tuxedo, with a dinner jacket, always. But not on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha.
I have a collection of bow ties. So.
Oh, Andy from Style After 50 just yelled in the chat there that he was offended.
He would be offended. Andy, you take another sip of your cocktail and move on.
Next comment.
No, listen. I love them on other people. I think they're great. And I'm all for anybody wearing a tie anytime, anyway, anywhere. But on me, it's just not flattering. Yeah.
I hear you. I've never tried to I've yet to try a bow tie on, only because I was very, very heavy and I had a massive neck, a 22.5-inch neck. Yeah. And so I would just think a bow tie would make me look odd. And so, yeah.
I'm just not comfortable in it. Yeah. It's just, yeah. And I will give everybody a tip though, because I have worn bow ties and I wear them, like I said, with the tux. If you have trouble tying it, which it is a little bit tricky,
Mm-hmm.
tie it around your thigh, because your
And slip it
thigh
over.
is actually very close in circumference to your neck. And so, and most of them, because they're adjustable, even if the real tie ones, you can unhook the little hook. Once you tie it around your thigh, you can get the knot really good and then put it in your collar. And you've got because sometimes it's hard to do in the mirror, you know. I know people who do it all the time can do that, and they can do it blindfolded and all that. But if you don't, and you're having trouble, tie it around your thigh and then unhook it and put it on. Yeah.
Sartorial tips,
That's
101.
my tip for the day. Yeah.
I love it. So you mentioned, about the 70s.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the 70s, immediately I think of the music scene. And so I'm going to kind of segue that way. What is if you're going to listen to music, what's it going to be?
Oh, God. That's so, again, you're asking me a really hard question.
Oh, sorry.
That's like choosing your favorite child again. That so depends on my mood. I have very eclectic music tastes. I love me some late 70s, early 80s music in general. If I'm like in a happy mood and popping around, and I'll listen to Blondie or Diana Ross or something like that. It's kind of dance music. But I also really love opera. So if I just need to chill out, I'll listen to either an opera or some arias, selections or something like that. I love jazz when I'm just like hanging out on a Saturday afternoon and like doing nothing. I'm not as knowledgeable of jazz as I would like to be, but I like it. I know what I like. So yeah, those are probably the big three sort of.
Yeah, I'm with you on those. I love music in general. Audio.
Yeah, it's hard.
Sound.
I love me some country tunes. Actually, if I'm eating barbecue, I kind of want some Loretta Lynn on the jukebox, or some Cheap Trick. So there you go.
38 Special or Leonard Skinner.
There used to be this place
like
in New York called the Hog Pit, and they had the best jukebox. It was like a barbecue joint. When my ribs would come and Cheap Trick would be on the jukebox, life was good,
So we talked about your ideal plate. What's the ideal drink that's going with your barbecue?
With barbecue? Oh God. Well, if I'm eating a barbecue, chopped barbecue sandwich, it would be just like a Coke, But if I'm eating ribs and stuff like that, it would be a beer. Maybe I do love me a margarita mixed up every now and then with the spiciness of the barbecue, like especially if it's kind of a vinegary sauce. I like that. Yeah, that's probably.
And have you, as far as barbecue goes, do you have a smoker or cooker? Do you cook barbecue for yourself at all?
No. Barbecue is for me is a pure joy to eat. It's like I don't have a sewing machine either. I enjoy clothes.
There you go.
Right? I'm not going to make a suit. So for me, the joy of barbecue is in someone else preparing it and me eating it. Me eating the fruits of their labors. It's and I think to be good at it's the same as being good at anything. To be good at barbecue, you have to understand it. It's an art. It's something that's really takes a lot of time and energy and effort to really learn properly, I think,
Indeed. And that's what I love about this and menswear is the tradition of it, right? Yeah. The history that goes back and everything else. I was up at 4:30 this morning to get a brisket on by 5, so that I could have it for dinner before, we had our chat. So
right.
It's something that, you're going to invest time into, you're going to invest effort and, the blood, sweat, and tears and the love and everything else.
I also, for the last 30 some years, have lived in New York City, which is not conducive to having a smoker,
Right.
I don't think my neighbors would appreciate that.
I know mine were upset with all the noise I was making this morning.
Yeah, so I'm better passing on that. But
how's the New York barbecue scene?
You know what? It ebbs and flows. Sometimes it can be really good. Sometimes it can be really bad, you know. And it's hard because if you've grown up somewhere that barbecue is really a culture, like North Carolina, like Texas, like Kansas City, you know, or St. Louis, Memphis, you know,
Hmm.
these places, it's such a culture that, I mean, you can pretty much go to any joint
Right.
and get good barbecue. You know, it's hard to find bad barbecue. I mean,
Right.
I grew up from about 30 minutes from Lexington, North Carolina, which is
Oh
has
yeah,
one of the most famous barbecue restaurants in the world, you know.
indeed.
And so, you know, when you've had really, really good barbecue, it's sort of hard to walk into somewhere in New York City and go, wow, that's great.
Mm,
You know,
right.
it's,
Your boiled
it's
ribs are
just not going
delicious.
to translate, probably, you know.
Right.
They
Right.
just don't have something that they need, you know, not without trying, Lord knows. Um, but yeah, there are a couple places that I can go just to get my fix, you know. But it's not like going to North Carolina and having it, or I mean, that's one of the first stops I make usually when I get off a plane
The
to visit
barbecue
family.
shop.
Yeah, for sure,
Nice.
for
Love
sure.
that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
What's the general attire when going to eat barbecue?
It's it's not this year, although that has happened. And I did manage to come away from it unscathed. But
Congratulations.
so yeah, it's you know, it's usually a sweatshirt and jeans, something that can go into the wash very easily. Because
Right, right.
you know, I feel that when you're eating barbecue, and this is just me personally, to me, you eat it with full joy and full abandon, and you know, the chips fall where they may, literally. Yeah. So I could come
Absolutely.
away very messy. Yeah.
And so that was going to go to my next question. I am infamously known for what we call team no sauce.
Yeah.
So, do you like sauce, heavy sauce, or
I like a
minimal?
lot of sauce.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
saucy. Yeah. I'm saucy. My dad was huge on barbecue sauce. He used to like he he went to this place. It was actually in Virginia called King's Barbecue, and for some reason I think maybe King's was like distant family relatives way down the line, cousins or something. I can't
Mm,
swear to that, but it seems like it would make sense. Anyway, he would buy jugs of it,
mm.
and we'd have it all year round at home. And then he would like put it in little bottles and give it as like Christmas gifts and things to
What
people.
better gift is there?
But there is no better gift. And when I was older and as I was becoming a designer, I made labels for him. So, you know,
Oh, that's cool.
Papa Charlie's, you know, famous barbecue sauce, which he did not make, but that was okay. He became famous for distributing it. So,
Right, right.
yeah.
So, you talk about Carolina, and for those who may or may not know, regional sauces have a different base, right? So Carolina
Yeah.
is a vinegar base,
Very vinegary. Yeah.
sometimes mustard, some ketchup, depending on
Yeah.
which side of the state you're on.
It depends on whether it's, yeah, it varies, but it's very vinegar based. And it's not necessarily, it has a little heat, but it's not overly spicy. Yeah.
Right. And then your Memphis is more of a dry rub, and
Yeah.
Kansas City is more of a sweet, tangy.
Yeah.
So obviously you talked about, a chopped barbecue, but on other dishes, what are you gravitating towards? Are you sticking traditional Carolina, or are you doing other?
Well, no. Carolina is, because to me, and I'm sure it's not true, but to me, Carolina is it's really pork. And it's chopped pork usually. Although we would eat ribs, we would eat. I mean, we used to go to, which I'm sure maybe a lot of these viewers know, but most of the world doesn't know. But we would go to what you call a pig picking, and
Yes.
it would literally be a whole roasted pig, and you would literally stand around the pit and like pick it off the carcass and dip it in sauce and eat it, like
Hmm.
till it was gone.
Hmm.
So that's that sauce, and it's very good with pork. In Kansas City, it tends to, because you're right at what used to be historically the stockyards. It's more beef, and it's a sweeter, tangier sauce,
Hmm.
which I like as well. you know, and it comes like in North Carolina, you get it with coleslaw. In Kansas City, you get it with pickles. You know? So there's a vinegary, you know, there's always the vinegar sauce with the mayonnaise-y coleslaw was your balance. And then in Kansas, it was a sweeter, tangier sauce with a pickle acidity, you know. My favorite place to go in Kansas was called Gates Barbecue.
Okay.
Although I love Arthur Bryant's too. Arthur Bryant's was great, but Gates was this amazing place. And the minute you walked in the door, they screamed at you, "How may I help you?" So you had to know right away. You know,
right,
I want a beef on bun with pickles, and you know, and you had to know right away. It was like the soup Nazi on Seinfeld.
No barbecue for you.
No barbecue for you. Move on.
Right.
Holding up the line. But yeah, I haven't had any Gates barbecue in a long time, and I would love some right now. So.
Sorry,
hello, Mr. Gates.
Right. I didn't mean to give
my
you
address.
a hankering for this. I apologize. And so, you were talking about having it with sauce. Do you like? And you talked about pork. What would be if it wasn't a chopped pork sandwich? I think you said ribs, right? Are you going pork or beef ribs on that?
You know what? I like pork. I like both. I like a baby back rib, like with a like St. Louis style, or Kansas City style. You know.
Right.
And that's with the ribs, the sauce is probably more the tangier, sweeter. You know. Just because I think I ate a lot more ribs during that period than I did growing up. Ribs were way too fancy at our house. Not that we were poor, but I was lucky to get that, chopped barbecue sandwich. No, I think as I grew older, I was eating ribs and things, and that was a little bit tangier, sweeter sauce. And certainly with like a beef, I prefer that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, you mentioned about being younger and everything. So when you were younger, or when did your, transition into your sartorial vision begin?
I always cared about it. Even as a kid, I was very conscious of what I was wearing. And I was usually, for a small town in North Carolina, I was usually way overthought. Most boys really didn't think about that much. I remember one year, I told somebody this not long ago, I wanted, and I got for my birthday, a safari jacket, which no one, suffice to say, I was the only one in the 4th grade with a safari jacket. I'm sure I'd seen one on TV or something, and so I was way beyond my years and my experience to be wearing that. And I don't recall getting beat up, but I'm sure it came close. I could usually talk my way out of getting beat up, but or they just felt sorry for me and they left me alone. But even as a kid, I was very aware of that. And as time goes on, your exposure to things and your tastes change. You make a lot of. I was talking to a friend today, Anthony Kirby, and he's a wonderful dresser, and we were talking about how you make a lot of mistakes to get to a place where you feel confident in your style, and you only get there by making a lot of mistakes. And so, I've had many velvet suits and
So yeah, what's your greatest mistake that you would say that you've gone out in public with?
Oh my God! And I thought that I got so many, like yesterday. No, I think my greatest, and then it popped in my head right away, and I thought I looked great. Are you kidding me? It was 1978, and it was my senior prom, and I wore a white tuxedo with a sort of peach and white ruffled shirt. I looked like a creamsicle. I mean, it was horrifying, but I thought I looked great.
Should we bring back the ruffled tuxedo shirt?
I have one. I love a ruffled tuxedo shirt. It's plain white. It's, you know, the peach was the peach that matched my date's dress was actually what made it really bad. And the fact that it was a white tuxedo. I mean, you know, just don't. I mean, you have to do it. You have to make the mistake, right? You have to, and then look back and go, what was I thinking? You know, but I thought I looked fabulous that night. You know, I was styling.
And what about the shoes? What were the shoes?
Oh, they were white, like patent leather.
Patent leather, shiny.
Yeah, shiny shoes. They were horrible. And a big white bow tie. You know, it was horrible. I had lots of hair then, which people can't imagine because I haven't had hair for 30 years now. So,
did you have the traditional 70s fro?
I did not have a fro. It was not curly. It was bushy. So I had this sort of like, I mean, like if a boy had sort of a Farrah Fawcett, you know, it was like swept back. You know, there were many hours with a blow dryer to achieve my due in the late 70s. Yeah,
that is hysterical. Oh
yeah, I had lots of hair and it was like long. You know, so yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Thankfully, awesome. Though, like I said, you have to make a lot of mistakes to get to a place where you go, okay, now I know what to do. You know.
Well, I would say it's very refined now, and you know, we talked earlier about the pins, and I love the cufflinks. You know, I'm a big fan of accessories as well.
That's the fun stuff, you know.
What's your key accessories, right? What has to be on to finish your look?
I do, and people know this. I mean, because I talk about it all the time. I really like ties. I like wearing ties. I don't love. Usually, I'm very tolerant of what other people wear. I really don't judge because I think that style is very personal, and anybody who's making an effort, I'm all for. You know, there's the saying is there's no such thing as good taste or bad taste. There's just taste, you know.
Right.
It's just that, you know. So I'm usually not very critical, but I don't like necessarily seeing a guy like for business in a full like chalk stripe suit with a crisp white shirt and then no tie. Like that, he just looks unfinished to me. I mean, you know, in that setting, it just looks unfinished. But it's completely appropriate, you know, and people do it. But so yeah, I would say that for me, if I'm dressing, I would always err toward wearing a tie. But I also tend to err towards being overdressed than underdressed. I'm much more comfortable if I'm overdressed. I can be in a dive bar and be overdressed and be fine.
Right.
But I can't be, you know, at the opera in a sweatshirt, and that would I would cringe, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, and then as far as opera goes, because you mentioned it earlier, it's really funny. I took my wife for her 21st birthday to go see Pavarotti here in Miami.
Oh, nice.
Who is your, if you, and again, I'm going to make you pick your favorite child. If you had to listen to one artist, who's it going to be?
Oh gosh, living or dead? Yeah, no.
Either or.
Either or. I would say, and this is a really kitsch answer, and I'll probably, you know, people will roll their eyes, but I really love listening to Maria Callas. I just think that was a very, very special voice, and a very, very special, larger than life personality, and someone with an incredible amount of style, both in how she sang and how she presented herself, and the melding of that and her style is so inseparable from her art that I always find her fascinating.
Indeed.
But there are lots of people alive that I love to listen to today, but I won't go into that because unless we're gonna have Besmoque the opera, you know,
right.
nobody's gonna care, you know, about what I think about Joyce DiDonato or something.
No, you know, for me, I love, like I mentioned earlier, I love music, and whether I'm cooking or sitting around the house, even doing these right now, I've got, you know, Bobby Darin playing in the background. And so I've always got something going on with music. It's just, I love it so much. And it's very eclectic as well. And I have, you know, I mean, if you see my playlist, it'll go from, you know, Sam Cooke to Pantera to, you know, Public Enemy and everything in between.
Sure.
So what would you say is, if somebody saw your playlist, they'd be the most surprised to see on there?
God. What would they be the most surprised? I don't know. I don't think they'd be surprised because I'm such a freak. God, I don't know. Because I really appreciate all kinds of things. I mean, they might be surprised that I love me an old school country diva. I love some Tammy Wynette. I love some Loretta Lynn. I love those really old school, you know, my tractor broke down, my husband left me.
I'm taking a baseball bat to somebody.
I'm pregnant with the third kid. You know, I love those things because that's really real raw emotion. and fortunately or unfortunately, those ladies lived that, so they came from a place of knowledge, and I respect that. You know.
Yeah. Good music is like comedy, right? It always kind of comes from a strange place.
Yeah, and I can honestly be just as happy listening to Loretta as I can be listening to Diana Ross or Debbie Harry or Maria Callas. You know, if an artist is really performing and giving you their soul, you can't beat it.
Absolutely. With your dress in general, you know, there's rules, not rules, but kind of general guidelines about lines and not breaking lines and that sort of thing. So my question, belt, no belt, or braces?
I wear none of the above.
None of the above, okay.
My body is so perfect that, no, you know what? I occasionally wear a belt. Most of my suits are made with side tabs, with side adjusters, and that usually holds my trousers up well enough because I have my suits fitted. So you know, that's key. If you're just buying something off the rack, you're going to need a belt, or you're going to need braces, you're going to need something. But if you've had it tailored, you know, chances are you can get it pretty close to where it'll stay on your hips. So I usually wear side adjusters, and I don't particularly like braces. I find them uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I've been, you know, tried to be convinced otherwise, but I just ain't buying it. You know,
you gave it a shot.
I gave it my best shot. I wanted to like them, but I just couldn't do it in the end.
and shirts, you know, I love your collar points. And I notice a lot of your shirts are, you know, French cuffed. Would you say that's kind of the majority of what your shirts are, cuffed with that kind of point?
Almost all of mine are French cuff, dress shirts.
Right.
Shirts. Casual shirts, no. But dress shirts are all French cuff. And somebody asked me this. I did a Q&A Friday, and I posted some of the answers today. And
saw that, yeah.
Mine I have made with a 3.5-inch cuff, which is very deep. But I like that because I just feel like it's a little more elegant.
Right.
And it also weights your cuff down a little more. And it's one of those things that people don't see it, but you know it's there. And if you do take off your jacket, you know, it's just a little bit better. It's a little more elegant than most shirts are a more standard, like 1.5 or 2 inch.
Right.
So I like that. It's just something that if I can do that, I do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have my shirts made with like my shirts have the little eyelet holes, so the pen doesn't ruin the collar.
Right.
Yeah.
I've noticed that with your videos, how you have the holes for the pin to easily go through. Yeah. And do you ever use a different type of, you know, a bar maybe, or is it just?
I did. The pin? Yeah, I have a bar, I wore a bar about probably 50-50 for a while, and then I just haven't lately. I tend to just grab the pen because it's easy. My dexterity with rolling a little bit. I did it once in a video, and I could like not get it to do, and I was like, fuck this.
Forget it. Moving on.
My dexterity, particularly in the morning, is not great. So you know, the pen is a little easier.
And then as far goodness, I had another question which just completely slipped my mind, because somebody had joined here, Soft Calgary, and she makes hot sauces, and it made me think, going back to the question about barbecue.
Yeah.
You were talking about how the sauce, the vinegar sauce that you have, you know, carries a little bit of heat. Do you like spice in general, or
I do. I do. I love
hot spice, or just kind of a mild
I
remnant?
I like hot. I would say hot. I don't like mild. To me, that there's no point. If it's going to have heat, it should have some heat. I do not care for like nuclear, you know,
Melt your face off.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, no, it shouldn't, you know, it shouldn't hurt. But I don't mind a little watering in my eyes. I don't, you know, I like a little spice. I think that wakes you up. It keeps you going, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's actually good for you. I mean, I think, you know, health-wise, physically, those spices are really like cleansing. They clean out the system, you know.
I watched a while back, you know, people that are like, I don't want to say addicted, but eat hot, you know, where the pores are just sweating out of their pores in the face. And they do it because it borderline gives them like a high with the endorphin rush that they get, you know, from eating it. So, you know, it's interesting what you're talking about.
A little kick, yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta have a little something. You should actually, I'll DM you her Instagram account, because she has what she calls boozy hot sauces. So she adds a little extra something in there.
Combining two is more of my favorite. Have ribs and get drunk all at once.
There you go. And what are you enjoying tonight?
Tonight I'm enjoying water, because it's a school night, and I have to be up in the morning. So,
how long would you say it takes you from start to finish to be done, ready to walk out the door?
Not much anymore. I mean, I can do it in 10, 15 minutes, you know, tops.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we're not doing anything with the hair, you know. I mean, let's rub on a little moisturizer, you know. Not shaving so much anymore, so
gotcha.
You know, I'm pretty low maintenance at this point, and I tend to sort of have in my head every day what I want to wear. Sometimes that changes, but you know, I kind of have an idea of where I want to go, so I really just have to put it on, and you know, it happens pretty quickly. I can be out the door in 10 minutes if I have to. I can take an hour, you know, but
if I wanted to.
If I want to, yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty. With that, I'm fairly low maintenance.
Gotcha. And with Sarto magazine coming out,
yes.
How long have you been dreaming about this? And, you know, how long did it take you? I mean, obviously, you know, not going into too much detail, but how long did it take you from, you know, inception to production?
Yeah. Well, I saw probably, I mean, I've probably been thinking about it for a couple of years, and sort of noodling it around in my head and playing with some things just on the side. And then about a year ago, I really started putting it together, like putting together a prototype to say, okay, if I were actually going to do this, how would I do it? What do I want to say? You know, what do I want to say about it? Because ultimately, and one of the things I have loved about working on Sarto is collaborating, you know, working with different writers, different artists, different photographers. And, you know, it's so great when you get something that's better than you ever imagined or you could have done yourself. And really, you know, finding the talent in other people is such a joy. So that has been a really great part of it. That said, I still have to have a very clear idea of what I expect it to be. And when you're looking at a magazine, it's like looking at anything. There's a flow to it. The stories have to balance one another. You have to be telling a story individually and through the entire book. And so that was really fun. And it was an evolution over time, you know, because it started out being a little bit more general interest. I talked about travel and food and this and that. And I sort of edited it down over a period of time to where it really did sort of focus not so much on menswear or fashion, but style, which is different, and also on life. So I kind of use this terminology when talking about it of life and style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what the focus of it is. And I really love focusing on individuals using their style to create something unique, whatever that is. They could be a chef, they could be a tailor, they could be a shoemaker, whatever. And what
a jazz
makes
player,
it,
or a photographer.
I mean, what makes it interesting is how they do it with style. And sometimes that's literally what they wear. Sometimes that's just how they do it, how they live it, you know, how they put it together. And that's what I find interesting. So I figure if I find it interesting, maybe other people will too. Hopefully other people will too, you know.
Well, they will, I'm sure of it. And if anybody here is not aware of, please go check out Sarto Magazine.
SartoMagazine.com and actually download the issue. People forget that. You actually have to download the issue.
That's right.
The website is lovely and beautiful, but you have to actually download the issue to read the magazine, because that's really the best part. Because like I said, we've got some great people writing for us who've interviewed some really interesting guys. And great photography and great illustration, and it's really fun. And I really enjoy putting it together. And again, I hope that people enjoy reading it and experiencing it.
I mean, I for one, and I love these type of magazines, right? What's the frequency again of Sarto Magazine?
God willing, it's going to be quarterly. We're a little behind this year because of things worked. The winter issue kind of came out late, so we'll take this year to sort of play catch up. I'm looking at trying to get issue 2, the spring issue, out in the sort of later in the spring, and then a summer issue, a fall issue, and then probably a holiday issue. So you get 5 this year.
Hey.
But in January next year, we'll kick off and sort of be on a little bit better cadence of issues. But yeah.
What's your teaser for number 2?
Number 2, we've got some really great things coming up. In fact, I had a meeting with a guy today. I'm so excited about presenting him. You know, we're trying to feature people who have sort of, you know, small to medium businesses, or even large, but not large like a mega brand, you know. And I find those people really fascinating because they're doing something unique. And this guy, I don't want to tease too much, but he's just great. I love what he's doing. And in the first issue, we talked a lot with my friend Salvatore Ambrosino, who has
he's so talented.
He's great. He has this company where he promotes Italian artisans, people who make jewelry, who make beautiful glassware, who make beautiful wooden boxes, and they weave fabrics, all, you know, with centuries old tradition. And his talent is bringing all of these people together and presenting them in a whole to give these really small businesses a bigger platform. So I just think that his journey is fascinating to me. You know, and then there's some other companies that I'd love to work on in the future. I see Tyler there. Tyler works with P. Johnson Tailors, and I think that Patrick's business is bigger and certainly a worldwide brand.
He's here.
Huh?
He just said you guys are too kind. He's actually tuned in.
Yeah. So he, you know, it's a bigger company, but his story is really compelling and why he does what he does. And, you know, it's, he makes suits in a very different way with a very different attitude. He's Australian, and he brings a lot of that Australian flavor to his menswear and what he does. And again, I think that's really interesting and really fascinating. So I'd love to, you know, I've talked to Patrick briefly about trying to do something in the future. So
very cool.
It's, you know, my friend Rodrigo is talking about scents. He's one of the world's great perfumers. excuse me, I can't talk about the perfumes that he's worked on because we're not allowed to. But
Okay.
trust me, he has done some of the biggest, most fabulous ones. And scent is a really fascinating subject. I think that everybody, enjoys learning more, kind of pulling back the curtain on that and having an expert tell you why scent is important, how you wear it, when you wear it. I think that's going to be very interesting. So lots ahead. And and who knows, maybe some barbecue. Maybe there's some people out there in Besmoque world that we might want to focus on sometime.
I've got several right off the top of my
anybody
head. Really
doing something with style and with passion is up for grabs. So.
All right, good to know. I love that you brought up scents. I have a bedtime scent that I spray before I climb into bed every night.
Sure.
What's your favorite child? What's your scent of choice if you had to pick one?
Again, I have many because I wear a lot of different scents. Again, it depends on my mood, on the season, on where I'm going,
time of day, etc.
Time of day, everything. But I will say that there's one that I wear a lot because it's just kind of a go-to. And Rodrigo will kill me because it's not one of his. Because I wear his for special occasions because they're really fabulous and I love them. But this one is by Maison Margiela, and it's called At the Barber. And he did a line of scents that are based off of places and reminiscences and things, which a lot of people do. But his are very specifically named, like Walk on the Beach, Fireside Jazz, and things, like that. And this one's called At the Barbers, and it kind of reminds you of being in a barber shop, And it's so that's one that I'll just like squirt on in the morning, like if I'm not thinking about it. It's it's a good one.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because saying terms like that, titles like that, instantaneously put you somewhere, right?
Yeah.
When you said At the Barber, I mean, immediately I can think of what it would smell like, what I would feel, the temperature, whatever, the surrounding. I love that. That's really, really cool. At the Barber.
And most scents do that. I mean, I have another one that I wear that I love. It's called Vodka on the Rocks. Yeah, but a fabulous idea. It's by Kelly. And there's one that I get from P. Johnson called Chiese di Roma, which is Churches of Rome. I mean, I didn't know that I wanted to smell like a church in Rome, but apparently there are moments in my life when I do, because it's this really sort of heavy incensey smell. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Nice. Mr. Fayyad Taylors is joined in as well. He says hello.
Nice.
So, it's funny because today I came in after smoking this brisket all day,
Yeah.
And you can imagine what I was smelling like. And my daughter, I give her a big hug because I love sneaking up on them, and just hugging them. And she's like, "You smell way too smoky." I'm like, "This is the best fragrance a man could wear."
I was gonna say we should do a line of like Kansas City ribs,
backyard smoke,
pulled pork sandwich. Oh my God. There are times I would love to smell like a pulled pork sandwich. Who doesn't want to smell like a pulled pork sandwich?
I'm telling you, I'm going to keep my shirt next to my bed tonight that I smoked the brisket in. And just, that'll be my bedtime scent tonight.
I mean, the smell of barbecue wafting over a summer day is, pretty fabulous.
It actually, down here in Miami, we're not really, that well known for barbecue. And the one place that I would tell anybody who's visiting down here, if they wanted to go to a store, a brick and mortar place, caught my attention one day because I was getting an oil change and I smelled it across the street and halfway down the block.
Sure.
And I was like the cartoon, how they get carried down with the wave of the smoke and their nose lifts up and it just carries them off their feet down the street. Sure. That's what I felt like. And
I mean, that's one reason that I really wanted Rodrigo in the magazine, is because scent is it's one of the, one of the strongest things that we have and that we don't even realize. I mean, we've lost our sense of smell over the millennia because we used to have it like wild animals do,
right.
And now we don't so much anymore, but it's still such a powerful thing. And so I'm really excited about having him. and being able to really explore that in lots of different ways, from frivolous to really in depth about what makes a great scent and why, and you know, why wearing scent is important and how it can enhance your life and your love life and
Absolutely.
everything. Yeah.
Pretty much everything. Absolutely. Chuck, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
My goodness, this was so entertaining, so much fun to learn about you and the magazine. And
Thank you.
continued success and everything. Again,
Likewise.
if you guys and girls have not gone yet, go quickly, sartomagazine.com. Follow it on Instagram, Sarto Magazine. And I mean, it is exceptional. So much information, so much good. The pictures are exceptional. I mean, to display. So for instance, you talk about style and life and things like that. You get that from the images. You know, too often times someone will put a title on something and it doesn't really correlate with what the image is or what the words are. And I could say every sentence, every syllable, every image is just so on point. It's so well put together. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I can't thank you enough for supporting it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
spread the word, everybody. Enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody should. Chuck, thank you so much. Have a fantastic
Thank you, my friend.
evening.
Happy
Thank you for being on. Yeah, same to you. Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Bye,
Have
everyone.
a good night.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.